Sweet surrender as I love, serve, and remember.
Why doesn't the United States have knock-knock jokes? Because freedom rings. You gotta have a joke, right? So for those of you who were here last week, what we talked about was creating your own declaration. And I'll just briefly revisit it just for those of you who aren't here, because this idea was not mine, but it was so brilliant. I heard it from Simon Sinek, that the Declaration of Independence is what we celebrate. We have our 250th anniversary, and he was pointing out that it's so interesting that what we celebrate is the day we made the Declaration. Not the day when we won independence from Britain, which happened 7 years later. Not when we wrote the Constitution, when George Washington was inaugurated as the President of the United States. None of those things are the things that we celebrate. What we celebrate is the day the Declaration was made. When that highest ideal of equality, of freedom for all, equality for all, and pursuit of happiness for all was declared. And as I pointed out last week, again, not from me, I don't want to take credit for it, which is we weren't living up to it, obviously. The writer of the Declaration of Independence had a ton of slaves. 1/5 of the population were slaves. Women weren't equals. There were a lot of people who weren't equal. So there was no question that we weren't living up to that declaration, but it came from the purest and highest ideals that a group of people came together, could imagine, and we are still trying to live up to it. That when we come with our own purity, if we check in with our own pure heart, what is the highest ideal that I have for my life on earth? The highest ideal from the purest place, not from a personality base, but that wonderful soulful place. What's my highest ideal? And declare it, and knowing that it's coming from such a high ideal that it's probably going to take, not probably, it will take my entire life, our entire life, your entire life, to continue to become this extraordinary declaration that you have made for your soul journey. Isn't that inspiring? And so I invited you last week to think about, maybe you already have it. I was talking about, for me, I use it, term it more in terms of a covenant, but it's the same idea. Been working on the same covenant and will to the day I die, and it is written. So however you want to describe it, but have those highest values that will carry you through your entire lifetime, and your whole life is committed to becoming that to the best of your ability, day after day, month after month, year after year, decade after decade. And then what Simon Sinek pointed out, which I love, which is after you have the Declaration, the Constitution is the how. Okay, how are we going to do this? Well, first they have to win independence from Britain, Constitution, all the things that have unfolded over these last 250 years. We're still in the how, but there's some documents that help guide our how, right? The Constitution, Bill of Rights. So the question for you becomes, what is your how? If you've been thinking about what your declaration is from the purest place of yourself, from that deep heart space, soul space, what am I, in the biggest picture, in the highest ideal, what am I committed to? And then what is my how? How do I live that? And assuming, because you're all in a spiritual community, that you feel and know that the purest place of your highest ideals come from the divine, come from your eternal self, not from your personality self, that you're connecting with something that is greater than just this one human existence, that you're feeling into the eternal, you're feeling into the infinite, you're feeling into the transcendent self that all of us are, that unique soul that you are, and you're feeling into from that place. So if the how is going to be for you on a spiritual journey, we have to look at the source of that how. And that usually comes through some sort of inner practice, which helps cultivate the connection with the source of our declaration, not just the declaration, not just the agreement, but the source of that declaration. And that's different because you can be really focused on a project and move into higher states. You can be working on a beautiful art project and move into higher states. But still, often the focus is the art project, or if you're playing sports, the winning the game. Athletes all the time talk about being in this, well, I guess because I'm around athletics a lot, just moving into that zone state. But the focus is the thing out there. When we're on a spiritual journey to know the source of our covenant, the focus isn't the result out there, but the inner connection, first and foremost. That doesn't preclude an external, beautiful manifestation, but it always starts within. This past weekend, Jack, Julian, and I watched this great documentary, highly recommended. It's on HBO, of Earth, Wind, and Fire. It just came out. Did anyone see it? It's so good. You saw it? Wasn't it good? Yeah, I love it. I love Earth, Wind, and Fire. And everything that was coming, he was wanting to, Maurice White, the founder of the group, the visionary of the group, because he connected with this transcendent place, and he wanted to bring that into the world. As he was writing his affirmations, he was in the 70s. Man, did he remind me of Michael Beckwith, how he describes himself in the 70s, and writing the affirmations, and he wants it to impact the world. Whatever he does, he wants it to bless the world, bring people together, create oneness, create harmony. He had very high ideals, and of course there's challenges along the way, because he's still a human being, but he's bringing that intention, and he meditates, and he gets his group to start meditating. And he's in a band before Earth, Wind, and Fire, whose name I can't remember. Do you remember the name before? And they were so good. I actually really love them too. And the very first time they played in a group, and they thought, they have all these great groups before them, what are they going to do? So what they did, I think this takes such courage. When they were called out, they all just sat down and started meditating. And the audience was like, boo, and then they got quieter, like they're not stopping. And they just stayed in this meditative state, and then one at a time, people started playing instruments, and they got into this really funky groove, and I'm like, that like embodied that journey of starting with the stillness, starting with that inner stillness and taking it outside. But it always starts, if you're on the spiritual journey and you have a declaration, it has to start with meditation and prayer, right? If I was going to ask you what's the most basic building block of a spiritual journey, what would you answer? Meditation and prayer. So the first question to ask yourself in your how is, do you have a meditation and prayer practice? And how important is that? Is that if your declaration is the most important thing, now to be gentle and compassionate with ourselves as we look at our country, how hard it's been for us to live up to those high ideals 250 years later, we still got a lot of way to go. So it doesn't mean that you're a failure, that just means it's part of the process of being human. But for yourself to know that meditation, connecting to that stillness within us, is essential for you to connect with the source of the reason why you're on this planet. And that's not something we can skip over. Ultimately, you can, and it's always, you don't have to have judgment about it, but you're always going to be brought back. Because if you want to fulfill your declaration, your covenant, your whatever your highest ideal is, that time in meditation, that moment of returning to the stillness is essential. Essential. Someone asked Mother Teresa, how do you pray? And she said, I just listen to God. That's how she prays. I just listen to God. And then the person asked, well, what does he say? And she said, he listens too. Isn't that just so beautiful? Sometimes when we talk about a conversation with God, it's what all my verbiage and all that verbiage coming back, but we don't focus on the I'm listening and God's listening and we're listening. There's this, if you're both listening, what's going to happen? Deep, deep, deep stillness and silence. Every mystic of every tradition, no matter how profoundly they're into whatever their practice and rituals are, it always goes to, and you get to silence. Elder Saint Porphyrios, any saints goes into silence. Yogananda, silence. Joel Goldsmith, anyone. No matter, you're praying and you're praying and you're praying until the highest form of prayer is silence. The highest form of prayer is silence. That holy and sacred communion. I love, many of you know one of my favorite, no, not one of, my favorite St. Francis quote is, go out and preach the gospel, and if you must, use words. It transcends language, and it takes time, and it takes commitment. And the beautiful thing is, the other thing that I read consistently from my different teachers, from different paths, is that this divine presence knows us intimately. And it's almost the exact wording. I'll read it in Yogananda, I'll read it in Goldsmith, I'll read it in Porphyrios, I'll read it in Julie of Norwich, saying, why do you think you can educate God on what you're thinking? The divine already knows. You don't have to explain to the divine what's going on. You might need it for yourself, but the divine already knows. And that as you get deeper and deeper in that prayer, deeper into the stillness, there's a vibration that is responding to your deepest longings, fears, desires, those deepest places without you having to blah, 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 blah. Sometimes we need to do that, right? To create space, but we do that to get to the space where we can finally listen. Have you ever had the experience where you're just going through blah, 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 and then finally after you just going on and on and on and on, and then you just exhaust yourself and you're tired, and then suddenly you just let go, and when you let go, you feel something moving inside of you? You're looking at me. Have you had that experience? Well, if you haven't, try it. I can't tell if you're not answering, so yes, some of you have nodded your head, but yes. We talk until we just let go, because it's in the letting go that we're finally listening, and God's been listening to us all along. That ever-listening presence, not only is divine God talking to us all the time, God is listening to us all the time, but are we listening? And sometimes we can't listen because we have this emotional energy, which is fine, but to release it and to listen. So the most important part about meditation is your agency. If you're going to have a meditation practice, this is something you have to decide. And this, I've discovered, is a really important point. Along the way of being a minister, I've heard so many people give me reasons why they can't meditate. A lot of times because they're busy, there's a lot going on, my mind doesn't stop, it's a monkey mind. But there's no group. I need a group. If you have meditation before service, then I'll meditate. If you do it this way, then I'll meditate. And it's sort of externally dependent on something anyone else is doing. Your meditation practice is your own. That's why I love that reading today. Your journey is your own. You own it. If you have a meditation practice or don't have a meditation practice, it's because you've made that choice yourself. And as we heard in that wonderful reading by Howard Thurman, when we make a decision, we act. And so if we make a decision that meditation and prayer, it's one, we separate them. They're not separate, they're one. When meditation and prayer are central to our spiritual journey, when we've made that decision, the action happens. Oh, I have to meditate then. And then amazing thing happens. When you make that commitment and it becomes non-negotiable in your soul, that this has to be my practice because I'm on a spiritual journey and I'm here to fulfill my spiritual destiny, teachers are going to come. The means, different groups. When I started meditating, I just sat for 15 minutes quietly. I didn't have instructions. I didn't know what I was doing. Oh, but wait, here's TM. Oh, here's Yogananda who's going to give me very strict lessons, or Shunmu Suzuki, or Joel Goldsmith. Suddenly all these different teachers come and different groups showed up. I was meditating with Yogananda's group down in Self-Realization Fellowship, and then I was at the gym, and some woman who I don't know, and I don't know how she knew me, or how she knew of me or anything. I was a noob. I was very quiet, kept to myself, went to the gym on my treadmill, and she said, I'm in this group. I think you'd want to be part of it. And I go, well, what is it? She goes, it's kind of a Joel Goldsmith group, like doing her own, but and she started explaining it. I'm like, well, I'll try it. Six or seven of us sitting in this guy's living room, didn't know who he was. Oh, it was so deep, because we would go into this profound stillness. How did she know? How did she know that I had a regular meditation practice? I wasn't dependent on any class. I wasn't dependent on any teacher. I wasn't dependent on any group. And yet they kept showing up and continued to show up because I had the agency and said, this is what's important to me. My life in God is the most important thing. So I'm going to meditate, go into the stillness, commune at the deepest level that I'm capable of. And yes, I have monkey mind all the time. This is not about like being perfectly still and I don't have any thoughts. Of course I have thoughts. So then I learn from teachers who who make me feel okay. It's okay you have thoughts. Here's things you can do. Here are things, how you can see it, how you can view it, how you can have mindfulness that watch your thought. All these different things, all the things necessary for us to go deeper and deeper in our meditation practice start showing up. Right? Right? I know you all know this. That's why the topic today, by the way, is you already know this. I'm just repeating what you know. I'm just trying to reaffirm it for you, because the world keeps telling us that Travis and Taylor's wedding is just so much more important than my meditation practice. I have to read about who was there, who was singing, Paul McCartney sang, I want to hold your hand for the first time in 62 years. I think that's pretty cool. But that has to happen after my meditation practice. So we need reminders. So that's all this is. We need teachers. We do need groups. It does make a difference. But those can't be the defining source of whether we meditate and take prayer and meditate on our own. We have to take responsibility for our spiritual journey, for our own declaration of our existence, because every one of you is essential for God to fulfill its vision for heaven on earth. You don't get to be skipped over, or you don't get to merge your journey with someone else's journey. You can find resonance and support. But even if you're in a group of everybody doing the exact same meditation practice and you all know each other, you're still going to be a unique emanation within that group. No one's going to be doing it exactly the way you do or showing up and expressing it exactly the way you do it. No one can, because you have your own individual identity. You are responsible. God has made you responsible for your spiritual journey, and we get to claim it and accept it. It's the greatest honor and privilege of our lives to claim that for ourselves. And then when we are by ourselves and there is no group, what do? What if nothing's really happening? Well, there's a wonderful practice of when you're meditating, you can call in teachers, spiritual teachers, to meditate with you. And I remember talking about this one time, and it didn't really seem to land. But years later, I'm not saying she got it from me. I was aware of it, which made me aware of it when she said it. Not that I caused it. I was talking, or Therese Sales was sharing with a group. Do you all know Therese? Hi, Therese. Shout out to Therese online. Was sharing that when she meditates with Yogananda, that she experiences him meditating in a temple that welcomes everyone. And she goes in and she'll meditate with him. And she said sometimes she meditates with Jesus. Different beings will show up, but generally it's Yogananda and his lineage, people connected with his lineage. And that's who she's meditating with every day. The divine presence is always with us. I was just at my dentist the other day, and she was telling me, somehow I had brought in a book, and she said, oh, do you read a lot? I haven't read in a long time. The last book I read was by a friend of mine who wrote a book called Death is But a Dream. I'm like, oh, what's that about? And she said, well, he's a hospice worker, and he was talking about how people have all these dreams and visions before they die, not after they die, not near-death experience, where they experience all these presences coming to visit them. And so it's a book full of the stories of these presences that come to visit, which is stunning, but it reminds me, You don't have to have a near-death experience. You don't need to be near death. That these presences are walking with us today. All these chairs are filled. Let's be clear. We are not in this room by ourselves. Isn't it amazing to realize that? That right now we are not in this room by ourselves or online by ourselves. That there are these extraordinary beings of light who are with us, supporting us in everyone individually, in our own individual journey. So they'll be supporting you, different than you, but all uniquely loving each of us right now. And that's always true. And so when you go into meditation practice, you can open yourself up to feel those divine presences that are already there with you. And I think the reason why we experience it hospice is because we're letting go a little bit. We're letting go of this side of the veil a little bit, so we start becoming aware of it, but that doesn't mean they're not always there. Opening up, meditating with other beings of light. And Yogananda made an interesting point. I just finished the Bhagavad Gita this week, and I love the thing that I really, just an interesting, I hadn't thought about it till I read it. He said, people think that just because you're on the other side, you're enlightened. He said, basically, when you go to the other side of the veil, you just continue on wherever you left off here. So that's why when people are Hindu, they have experiences with Shiva or Krishna, whoever they were connected with, and Christians will have Jesus, and Buddhism might have Kuan Yin or Buddha, that whoever we're connected with, religious science, you might meet Ernest Holmes, that we don't become totally different beings on the other side where suddenly we're enlightened. We continue what we're doing here, which reminds us of how important it is what we're doing here and to know who our group is. But also I say that because the point that Yogananda was making was make sure when you're connecting through meditation with other beings, because he highly recommends that practice, is make sure they're enlightened beings. I love my mother and father profoundly and deeply, and they gave me so many gifts, but I don't meditate with them. I meditate with the spiritual masters. And then they know us. They're listening to us. So I've been initiated, I forgot the word for a minute, into Kriya Yoga 3 different times. The word initiation makes it seem like a really big deal. It's creating context. Kriya Yoga, you could watch a YouTube video in 5 minutes and do it. It's not a hard practice. Why they do the initiation is to bring a sense of how important it is, your own commitment, so you're not just saying, oh yeah, I'll do this, and you do it for 2 days and you quit. It's to bring incredible intention, the God consciousness around it. And so I've been initiated 3 times because like today, we need reminders. So every time I go back and get initiated again, it takes me, the theme for the month is back to the beginning. It takes me back to the beginning. Why am I doing this? It gets me recharged to go back and get initiated again. So as one of these initiations, I don't remember which one, I was also practicing the practice with the Orthodox Christian. It's all Christians, but they really highlight the prayer without ceasing. So I was sitting there doing learning the Kriya again and saying, well, this means I have to stop praying, and I don't like it. And it was just sort of thoughts I was having in my head, and then suddenly, so the initiation, you have all the Yogananda and all his lineage, and everyone's given flowers and fruit, so it's really beautiful. And I'm in this meditation, and Lahiri Mahasai, who is Yukteswar's guru, just says to me internally, it's okay to pray while you do Kriya. You can do the prayer and Kriya at the same time. And it was such a shock. Like, how does this being on the other side of the veil, who I've never had a conversation with or tried to have a conversation with, suddenly show up, and why him? And how did he know what I was thinking? And cool, I can pray and do Kriya Yoga at the same time. This is the intimacy. This is the intimacy that's created in your journey with whoever your teachers are, whoever you're aligning yourself with. Even if it's off on the side. I've had people who I barely know, and then I start studying them. So they might see you, they're listening to you, but you don't know they're listening to you. That's why we stay open. We listen, and God's listening to us and guiding us. And it's intimate. They know exactly what we're feeling. All these different beings of light. And if you prefer the impersonal God, the I am of you knows exactly what you're thinking. The highest self, your highest self. the highest I am, knows exactly what's going on for you, but we have to listen. And we get to know them. That's, for me, the next stage. So as I've been on this journey, I've gotten to know my teachers humanly. Shunra Suzuki, read a long biography about him, read lots of books about what students said about him. Yogananda, I've read so many different biographies about him. I've read his private letters to his favorite student. I don't know how I got the book, but it's so good. It's a little tiny book. It's his letters when he was over in India after being here for 15 years, and he was writing his favorite disciple, his thoughts about things, and get to know a whole different side of Yogananda. And he went through difficult times. Shunra Mizuki went through difficult times. That brings your spiritual teachers who are giving your teaching down into the human realm. Oh, they're human. They had struggles. They had stuff that they were dealing with. They had issues. That start integrating. Oh, they're my teachers. They're these high spiritual beings, but they know what it means to be human and how hard this journey is. The relationship gets deeper and more intimate. This is our spiritual journey. What's your declaration? What's your declaration? What is your spiritual journey? What does your meditation and prayer practice look like? How committed, how much agency are you calling forth in your prayer and meditation practice? How intimate is it? How personal is it? How profound is it in your daily life? Because the way we fulfill our declaration, your covenant, whatever that is through purity. And it's not that your human life is pure, but your heart, your soul that created that declaration, that's pure. That is that place that's been untouched by anything that's happened to you in this human life. Untouched. You were born with this untouched soul, and it fully knows itself as all of you. And so the commitment becomes, when I said you already know, if I say meditation and prayer, you're all like, of course, duh, I know that. Every one of you, right? Duh, of course, meditation and prayer, I know that. So it's just a reminder that how important this is, that this is a foundation to fulfill your declaration, to fulfill your reason on earth. Because you're a spiritual being, there's no way to fulfill your declaration, to fulfill your covenant, without going deeper. At the beginning of this year, I created the theme for this year, and since it's coming to an end, I might as well bring it to an end this month, which was going on a treasure hunt. And I was talking about, I wonder what it means to have prayer as the foundation of my life or a community's life. What would that look like? And this is one of my first revelations. Meditation and prayer. To have your foundation, not in a teacher, not in a teaching, but in the actual practice of Holy Communion inside of our soul, which no one can tell us what to do. It's between you and the divine. It's the most intimate place you can walk. That is our foundation. No one can create your foundation for you. No one can limit you. No one can block you. You are totally free. I eventually get around to freedom. You are totally free when you follow and listen to that divine voice inside of you. That's how we live our spiritual truth. That's how we live with God as our foundation. That's how we live with prayer as the house of the foundation, become a house of prayer. So just to move into prayer now, I just remind us, go out and preach the gospel, and if you must, use words. Let's turn within. I am so grateful as I just feel in this moment all the beautiful declarations in each and every one's soul, in person and online, that each and every one of us, all beings on this planet, have this beautiful declaration, soul declaration. And they are all very glorious, high, magnificent, transformative, life-changing, becoming heaven itself. Not even heaven on earth, because when we become heaven, the qualities of earth start to dissolve a little bit, and heaven becomes stronger and stronger as our consciousness, as our way of being. How can we all be equal and all be free if we don't abide in our spiritual self? So at the heart of our being is this beautiful, radiant light, this pure presence of spirit. That uniquely, tenderly, joyfully, playfully, and intelligently guides each and every one of us. We grow in our fearlessness to be still. We grow in our fearlessness to be still. We grow in our fearlessness to be seen and to be known by God, to be heard even as we hear. All the walls of separation between ourself and this earthly life and this divine presence dissolve breath by breath and every space in between. We remember to remember, and we live our declaration. Thank you, thank you, thank you, God. It is done, and so it is. Amen and amen.
I walk in God in all